Good morning to y'all in Radio Land or in Facebook Land. Um, Good morning to y'all in Radio Land. Let me turn that down. In social media land, we're simulcasting on the radio, and there are certain songs that when I play over the social media sites, um, they get flagged, and Facebook will cut the stream like they did last week. So the people who are listening on WTCC right now, they can hear I'm playing John Coltrane in a sentimental mood. Um, y'all can't hear it because they'll cut my stream off. So if you want to hear the audio to the music, you got to switch over to 90.7 WTCC, and we'll get you in there. Yeah, we get ready to sign on. .7 WTCC. Good morning and welcome to the Black Love Experience. I'm Bishop Talbert Swan, sitting in for Ben Swan. And I hope you're having a wonderful Friday. Thank God it's Friday. And I hope your week has gone well. Um, Mine has been fantastic. Just got back from Chicago yesterday for the annual Bishops' Conference of the Church of God in Christ. But the highlight of my week was not necessarily all of the activities and things that were going on during the Bishops' Conference, but I got to see my oldest daughter, Whitney, and my son-in-law, Calvin, and my three beautiful grandbabies, Kaya, Katura, and Carmen. So that was the highlight of my week. Hey, cousin Lori, what was the highlight of your week? Hopefully, um, it was something special. Rep your city, rep your town. Let me know where you're chiming in from. That's John Coltrane in the background for those of you on WTCC. Those of you over social media, you can't hear it because, Facebook will cut my stream off like they did last week if I play my intro of John Coltrane. And I do that in honor of um, my Uncle Ben, um, who hosted the Black Love Experience for so many years. And Coltrane was one of his favorites, is one of his favorites. Let me not talk in the past tense because he's still very much with us. It's one of his favorites. And so I opened the program with that music in honor of him. And um, everything he stood for. He was is a jazz aficionado. Um, I remember we used to sneak into his house. He might be listening. I don't know if I'm gonna get in trouble. But anyway, we used to sneak into his apartment in Amherst. My cousin Robbie and I, when he lived there across from where my father lived in Puffton Village. It was just quieter, and we could sit back and relax. And whenever we went to play music, we had to play jazz because that's all that was in the house. jazz albums. So um, the jazz I grew up listening to was all influenced by Uncle Ben. Um, so today, 413-337-1867, there's a big brouhaha about Lizzo, the singer, pop star, um, playing a crystal flute that was given to James Madison, President James Madison, when he was reelected. He got a flute as a gift for his inaugural, and it was a crystal flute. And the Library of Congress allowed Lizzo, who was in D.C. For a concert, so they allowed her to play his flute during her concert on stage. And conservatives, mostly our non-melanated brothers and sisters, have lost their ever-loving minds, okay? I mean, they have lost their minds about, oh, this scantily clad woman. They're desecrating our history and our heritage. And now they didn't trip like that when Taylor Swift played George Washington's piano. What they tripping about Lizzo playing James Madison's flute. It's a desecration of American history and family values and all of that stuff. Well, these folk far too often have a very twisted notion of morality and so-called family values. Um, and yeah, we gonna debunk that foolery. We're gonna debunk that foolery because morality doesn't have jack to do with anything. Values don't have anything to do with anything. It's just pure racism. Um, y'all mad because it's a black woman. And here's my thing, just say what it is. That's all. Just say what it is. We mad y'all got this N word playing the flute. You know, that's what it. And we're gonna deal with that. We're gonna deal with that. Let me. I'll play this when all of y'all can hear it. They don't ever cut me off when I play Ferris Hill. So I'm going to play a little bit of Ferris Hill, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about it. Rep your city, rep your town. Let me know where you're chiming in from, what part of the nation or the world that you are chiming in from. Tell a friend, tell somebody the Bishop is on there. Do me a favor right now, like, share, subscribe. Tell somebody Bishop is here and you ought to get on right now. Ferris Hill, Don't Stop. We'll be right back right after this. Don't go nowhere.
The essence of life is growth, but the essence of growth is change. The being in the road will be the end of the road if you refuse to change.
Reach a little higher, reach a little higher, dig a little deeper, dig a little deeper, go a little further, go a little further. Come on, come on, come on. Reach a little higher, come on, yeah. Dig a little deeper, dig a little deeper, go a little further, go a little further. Come on, but don't stop. The essence of life is growth, but the essence of growth is change. The being in the road will be the end of the road if you refuse to change. Your life will never change until you get disgusted with where you are. Whatever you don't hate is what you tolerate. You must learn from the past, plan for the future, and live what you got. For it is your daily routine that determines your success or failure in life. It's the choices that you have made up until this point that will determine the rest of your life. So break the cycle that doing enough is simply good enough. You only get out what you put in, so don't settle for the crumbs when you can have the whole loaf. So push yourself beyond your limitations. Come on. Reach a little higher. Reach a little higher. Dig a little deeper. Dig a little deeper. Go a little further. Don't stop. Don't stop. Come on. Don't stop. Reach a little higher. Reach a little higher. Dig a little deeper. Dig a little deeper. Go a little further. Go a little further. Don't stop. Don't stop. Don't stop. Don't stop. So you gotta break the routine of trying to beat the system. Manipulators will always try to bypass the process for the quick progress. There are no shortcuts to success. There are no elevators to the top. You gotta take it one step at a time. You gotta break the routine of allowing others to get into your head and control who you are and where you're going. You see, when you're about the positive, you're gonna always have haters. But don't let your haters push you down, let your haters push you forward to the next level. So when people show you who they really are, don't perceive them to be something else that they're not. See, a zebra does not change his stripes. So you gotta keep pushing yourself to the next level. Yeah, there you go. Come on. Be a little deeper. Come on. Yeah. Go a little further. Go a little further. Don't stop. Come on. Don't stop. Come on. Yeah. Reach a little higher. Reach a little higher. Be a little deeper. Dig a little deeper. Go a little further. Go a little further. Don't stop. Come on. Come on. Come on. You gotta understand the greatness is the nature that you were born out of. You'll never discover your greatness without hard work and dedication. Greatness says more about who you are and what you expect for yourself. And greatness will always attract greatness. Show me your friends and I'll show you the future. You just a step away. You just a step away. You just a step away. Don't ever give up. Come on. You just a step away. You're almost there. Come on. You gotta push yourself beyond your limitations. You see, there's no mountain too high, no valley too low. You can go where you wanna go. It's all in the power of your imagination. If you can see the invisible, you can do the impossible. So stretch yourself. Take yourself to the next level. Come on, come on, come on. Reach a little higher. Dig a little deeper. Go a little further. Come on, come on, come on. Don't stop, come on. Reach a little higher. Dig a little deeper. Go a little further. Don't stop, don't stop, don't stop. Come on, yeah. Come on.
There's a blessing waiting on you.
Come on. Blessings are coming your way.
There's a blessing waiting on
Go
you.
a little further. Don't stop. Don't stop until you get your dream. Don't stop. Get your dream. Until you get your
90.7 WTCC. Ferris Hill in the building. Don't stop. You got to reach a little higher, go a little further, dig a little deeper. Don't stop.
Go further, go. Come on, you gotta go further, go. You gotta go further, go. Don't stop, don't stop, don't stop. Come on, yeah, come on, come on, yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. That's what we're going to do. We're going to reach a little higher. We're going to dig a little deeper. We're going to go a little further. Can't stop, won't stop. I thought I told you that we won't stop. All that stuff. Happy Friday, TGIF. Come on in the building. Come on in my room. Come on in my room. Yes, tell somebody the Bishop is on the air. Like, share, subscribe. I got Los Angeles, California. Hey, Brother Hampton, I see you, bro. Up in here, Myrtle Beach, South Kakalaki is in the building. Chicago is up in the building. I see my baby girl. Whitney is in the building from the Shy. Fairburn, Georgia is in the building. Good morning, good morning, good morning to my baby girls. My grand girls are watching Papa, Carmen, Katura, and Kaya. Good morning. H-Town is in the house today. Yes. I see you, Lisa Jones. Love you back. Good morning. Good morning. Virginia Beach up in here. I see you, Counselor Whitfield. Good morning. I see you, Sister Crawford. Good morning. Good morning to everybody who's up in it. Everybody in the Twitter space. Everybody who is on YouTube. Good morning to you. Let's get into it. Let's get into it, because, this is pure. This is just hypocrisy. I mean, just hypocrisy. Uh, Conservative non-melanated people are losing their minds over Lizzo playing James Madison's flute. Let me see if I can find this video. Um, the Library of Congress allowed her to play the flute. She was in concert in Washington, D.C., and they are going ballistic about the desecration of history, our heritage. How dare you let this scantily clad black woman twerk and play the flute? Oh, boy. It just never ceases to amaze me. After all of the brutalization, dehumanization, degradation, after all of the wickedness and the evil that white folks have done, that they still have the caucasity to call themselves being outraged about stuff black people do that they think has violated their morality and their values. I'm like, will y'all please just stop it? I mean, can y'all please just cut it out? Like, we're not falling for the okie doke. We're not falling for the banana in the tailpipe. Okay? You're not gonna gaslight us about no morality that you have over a black woman playing a flute that was owned by a slaveholder, okay, who raped black women. Okay. Oh, God. Y'all just really need to cut it out. Y'all just need to cut it out. Hold on, let me play this. Let me play this.
And sent to him in 1813 the crystal
Biatch.
This is the flute. This is made for President Madison and sent to him in 1813 the crystal
Biatch.
Now, so Lizzo is joking around, because she's a clown like that. She's playing the flute. She's doing a little twerking thing. They're explaining how this flute was made. It's a crystal flute that was made for James Madison and sent to him in 1813 from some dude in Paris as a gift for his inauguration after he was reelected president. Now here's the thing. What people didn't know or don't know um, is is uh, Lizzo is a classically trained flutist. She does this. She was trained to play the flute classically. She's a classically trained musician. Forget the exterior. Forget the twerking and the skippy clothes and all the other stuff that she has become known for. She is a classically trained musician. All right. Um, they're not mad really about anything to do with morals, with morality and heritage, because they won't even admit the legacy and heritage of James Madison to begin with. Okay? The reality is this: he was a slave holder. He owned black people. He was a rapist. And I don't care what you say, y'all not going to sell us these love stories, these romanticized, whitenized, sanitized stories about slaveholders and the black women that they enslaved being in love and having a family. No, you're not in love and have a family when the children that you have are enslaved because they're black. How the hell is that a family? How the hell is that love? How do you claim that James Madison loved his cook because he was having babies by his cook? That he loved her but kept her in bondage and put their children in bondage. That ain't love. That's raping your slave. Now, a lot of people know the story of Thomas Jefferson and his slave Sally Hemings. That's widely known. But most people are unfamiliar with the story that James Madison, another fellow Virginian like Jefferson, and his successor as U.S. president, also had progeny with one of his slaves. Also had babies by his slave. There are black descendants of James Madison who tell the story passed down through their oral history um, of James Madison fathering their ancestors. There's a book out called The Other Madisons, The Lost History of a President's Black Family. That's the heritage you ought to be talking about. That was written by one of James Madison's descendants, a woman named Betty Kearse, who was a retired pediatrician. She spent 3 decades researching the story that's told in the book. Get the book. The Other Madisons, The Lost History of a President's Black Family. She inherited the story from her mother, who played the role of the family griot. Okay? They were itinerant storytellers in West Africa who maintained and perpetuated oral traditions that got passed down when we were enslaved here to keep our history alive. And they didn't want their descendants to forget that they were Madisons, that they descended from James Madison. They came from the president. All right. So and you can romanticize it all you want. No, he didn't love his cook. They didn't have a family together. He raped his slave and had babies by his slave and then enslaved his own children. This is the monster that James Madison was. But y'all want to trip over Lizzo playing his flute. But you want to ban school teachers from teaching the truth of racism in American history. You don't want teachers to teach that James Madison was a slave owner and a rapist. You don't want them to teach that in the school. You want to hide that. But you want to trip over Lizzo playing the crystal flute. Come on, man. Y'all need to stop this caucastic faux white tears and outrage. Just cut it out. Just cut it out. And see, y'all the ones who got us talking about James Madison. Since y'all want to trip, you want to talk about James Madison? Let's talk about James Madison. Let's talk about the generations from Mandy, the cook, okay, that he raped, to Betty Kearse, his descendant who wrote the book. And the book talks about the visits that his black descendants had to Montpelier, his home, and her conversations with the museum directors, the librarians, the archaeologists, the other researchers. Yeah. Get the book. You want to talk about James Madison? Let's talk about James Madison. But when we talk about James Madison, we ain't going to be talking about no flute. I don't give a hamburger about no flute. About no crystal flute. What I do care about is the truth of the history of racism in America. And the fact that the founding fathers that you all revere so much, who you want to protect, whose history you want to preserve, who you want to present to us as icons of morality and virtue and family values and Christianity, were anything but that. Anything but that. Because I don't care what you say. There's nothing Christian, virtuous, or moral about men who owned black people, who raped black people, who lynched and murdered black people, and kept them in bondage for their entire lives. There's nothing Christian about these men, about these founding fathers. They have no values that I respect. There's nothing virtuous about them. But, you're going to hear it from me. You're going to hear it from others. But they're going to ban it in our schools because they don't want our schools to teach about this. They don't want our schools to tell you that George Washington, who was so honest that he could not tell a lie, I chopped down the cherry tree. He was a slaveholder. He was a major slaveholder. Before, during, and after his presidency. Okay? A major slaveholder. George Washington. Yes. Yes. As a matter of fact, he held, the numbers are estimated upwards to 600 enslaved black people. 600. Same thing with Thomas Jefferson. He owned 600 plus black people. He held them before he was in office, during his time in office, and after he got out of office. He also raped his slaves and fathered children with them that his family then wanted to deny. James Madison, who we're just talking about, owned over 100 slaves. Even though he was given lip service to condemning the institution of slavery. Even though he was given, check the history, James Madison gave lip service to opposing the international slave trade. But then he vehemently opposed any attempts to restrict its domestic expansion in the United States. How you going to condemn the institution of slavery, condemn and oppose international slave trade, but say it's all right if we own slaves here in America? This is the hypocrisy of white supremacy. This is the caucasity of white folks. Oh, boy. There's a memoir out. There's another one you ought to look up. There was a enslaved black man named Paul Jennings who served James Madison during his lifetime. And he wrote a memoir that was published about his life in the White House while James Madison was president. Get it. Read it. But they tripping about a flute. A flute, y'all. A flute. James Monroe owned slaves. And the double speak of the founding fathers is, when I study history, is what's most astounding to me. Is just the pure D hypocrisy. Because their mouths wrote checks their behinds couldn't cash. They talked a game that they didn't live. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, but in the same document, black folks are 3/5 of a human being. Double speak. Hypocrisy. Thomas Jefferson condemned slavery as evil, but he owned slaves his entire life. James Monroe condemned the institution of slavery as an evil institution. He advocated its gradual end, but he still owned 75 plus slaves. Okay? When James Monroe was president, he oversaw the Missouri Compromise that admitted Missouri to the Union as a slave state in exchange for admitting Maine as a free state. He gave lip service to supporting sending freed slaves to Liberia, to Monrovia. Matter of fact, Monrovia, Liberia, which became the name of the country in Africa that was developed to send freed slaves to. The reason the capital is called Monrovia because they named it after James Monroe, because he supported sending freed slaves to Liberia. So they named the capital of Liberia after a white man who owned slaves. Check it out. Google it. Monrovia, Liberia is named after President James Monroe. Think about that. Think about the irony. Liberia comes from liberation. It speaks of freedom. But we're going to name the capital after a white man who was giving lip service to freeing slaves while he still owned them. This is the hypocrisy of white supremacy, y'all. This is the hypocrisy of white supremacy. Andrew Jackson. I mean, I can go on and on, y'all. I go on and on about these founding fathers. Andrew Jackson owned over 200 slaves. Over 200 slaves. He was a slave trader. Unlike some of the presidents freed their slaves in their will, after they died. Andrew Jackson was like, hell no. Ain't nobody freeing nobody. Good morning, caller.
Bishop.
Yes.
The representative, how are you?
I'm good. You?
Good. I got to pop in and pop out.
All right.
I'm over here at STIC hosting President Lyndon Thompson, having a Western Mass delegation meeting with her.
All right.
She's interested in moving to, trying to get a campus in Springfield. So we're going to be dealing with her.
Gotcha.
But you're right on it with your program this morning. I almost didn't want to chime in because history, Washington had over 600. I would suggest to you that they had way more slaves than that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Get the record show. And all of those cats. So when we talk about reparations and 40 acres and a mule, there's got to be some compensation for black people in America. This is real. And most of those cats and their families throughout history, they've made probably billions of dollars now.
Mm-hmm.
If you do the math. It's really embarrassing. And until America comes to grips with the white supremacy and slavery, first sin of this country, we won't have any justice, equity, or equality.
Mm-hmm.
And the more, and you know what, they can really try to ban history out of the schools.
Well, they've been doing that in school districts across the country. Yeah.
And if we don't be careful, they're going to erase our history. And as I was reading, MSNBC had a reporter on the other day. He was suggesting if the House and the U.S. House and the U.S. Senate get control of this Congress, and you got Trump lurking in the background, that we could go. And I said this at the NAACP dinner back when we had the year before Trump got elected. I said this at one of your dinners, that they could turn back the hands of time and try to re-enslave us. It might be impossible, I don't know, but they're going to make an attempt to do it and erase all of our rights that we have as black people in this country. There is a move. It's real. And I mean, you know, so I think some folks, we get really busy and wrapped up in our daily chores and all that, and business and all that. But we better pay strict attention.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. They definitely want to turn back the hands of time and the day and time where black folks were subjugated and subservient to white folks is one of those times that they feel like America was great.
Well, that's Trump's slogan: "Make America great again."
Mm-hmm.
That means eliminate black people, brown people, Asians, and let's get back to where the founding fathers were.
Right.
And you're right on.
The slave-owning founding fathers. Exactly.
That's when America was great. The expansion of the 13 colonies and the expansion going west and all of this land on the backs of slaves and black people and slavery, which is a sin until we address it. It's a major problem. It's just a major problem. And Lyndon Johnson had said it. We started behind. Affirmative action was real because we started behind in this race. All the years of slavery and years of Jim Crow, years of white supremacy. It is something has to be done, Bishop. And this when you start talking about reparations, people get kind of upset and mad, and how are you going to calculate it, and who's going to get it, and what's going to happen? Figure it out.
Well, they had no problem calculating reparations that they gave to many Native American tribes. They had no problem calculating reparations that they gave to slaveholders after emancipation when they compensated them for their quote unquote loss of property. They had no problem calculating out reparations to Japanese Americans that they held in internment camps during World War II. They figure out a way to calculate everything they need to calculate except for reparations to black people.
Yeah. And we have to hold their feet to the fire. And as I said, this legislation, some towns in Massachusetts are trying to deal with it. Amherst is dealing with it. So they have a reparation bill. But we're trying to get a major bill in Massachusetts and deal with reparations in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Now, these are very smart people, MIT, Yale, and Harvard, and Boston College. They can figure it out. And 40 acres is a mule is what they said. Mm-hmm. That was their words, not our words. And as Dr. King said, they wrote a check. It came back insufficient funds.
Mm-hmm.
And 40 acres and a mule, you do the math. Some people have dealt with it. I've been reading a lot about it lately, and they can figure it out. They figure, as you just said, every other situation that they wanted to give reparations, they manage. Now, who gets it? Let's figure it out. Because until that day comes, Bishop, as we talked last week about the wealth building and all that, we are behind. And you look at the devastation of our communities, it's not because we don't care. If you go back to Africa from where we started, and all that we've done, and the pyramids, and the geometry, and the math, and everything, we had it. We come here to this country enslaved,
right?
And we're behind. It's amazing that the good Lord has blessed us to come as far as we've come. But right now, we need financial blessings in order to level that playing field, and that field is unlevel. It could never be leveled until they reparate people. So,
yeah, well,
this morning, I was just listening. It's a beautiful thing, and sometimes our own community don't even want to talk about it.
Well, there was one estimate I saw that said the value for the 40 acres and a mule to each emancipated person that was enslaved in today's value would come up to a total of about $6.5 trillion. I think it would be more than that, but let's just play with that. $6.5 trillion. When we're knee deep in the pandemic and the House and Senate passed the coronavirus relief bill,
right,
it was $3 trillion. Now, America, when it came to providing relief and a stimulus to the economy for coronavirus, of course, when white folks were impacted and stuff, they found $3 trillion under a pillow somewhere.
Well,
but they can't ever seem to find money when it comes to reparations for black people.
and I'm sure that trillion, probably a little bit more than that. And I'm sure that if we had a meeting of the mind, we could come to some kind of, I guess, settlement, so to speak, and so our folks would get instant money into their hands. And I'm sure that we could come to some kind of agreement, a settlement, basically, to help our folks. Because I'm letting you know, it's very difficult. As long as America's been in existence, way before the Mayflower, we were here. So just appreciate your show this morning, man.
Yes,
I
sir.
really do. It's timely. It really needs to be talked about. But I just have a couple of announcements, and I'm a bug off because I got this. Linda Thompson, the first black female president at Bristol State University. She's going to be on campus. I'm going to be on that campus on STIC Technology Park. And we have the Western Mass delegation is going to meet with her as we try to talk about expanding Westfield State down in the community.
All right.
And it's amazing. So a couple of things real quick. We got to remember Ida. I went by, I don't know if you made by Ida's house. I got there a little late, but I went by for her 85th birthday celebration. And my wife and myself stopped by to wish her that, one of your still hardworking NAACP presidents. And also I want to thank the community for the flowers and cards and all the expressions of love and sympathy from the homegoing of my brother, Minister Clayton Williams. And then last Saturday, Dr. Bracey was here. And Dr. Bracey and Carlos Santana, and they those murals that are on the corner of Montrose and State, and then the mural that's on Catherine, on the side of the building, which is a tribute to black women. But it's funny because Uncle Ben was Ben Swan, Nelson Stevens, and Joe Sprue gave them the paint.
Mm-hmm.
And they would carry the paint from right around where Ben's office was. They would carry the paint up to Montrose. And I remember Nelson was here like a couple of years ago, and he was telling the story. So they would carry the paint up, he would paint it, and go back and go back. But it's a tribute to black people. And Carlos Santana was a young artist then. He helped do that. You know, he's been traveling all over the country. And he's saying Nelson and those folks, it was an expression of depicting black people in a positive role. Because all over, you know, the 60s and the 70s, they were depicting black people as these savage beasts, you know, out of control. And those murals really, they injected life into communities, and black people saw themselves in a very positive image. So we want to thank Uncle Ben and then Nelson Stevens, God rest his soul, for what they did. And Dr. Bracey, Bishop, you'd appreciate that. He was part of that.
Yeah.
And what he spoke. I'm going to send that tape to you. And he really got into the black history when we had the University Without Walls, and black people were getting educated, and they stopped that program.
Yeah, they stopped a lot of things, and a lot of people went through that. My grandmother went through that program. My uncle Talbert got his master's degree through the University Without Walls. I mean, there's so many people who benefited from programs like that.
Well, that's what he said. But you know what he said? He said Uncle Talbert and Fluker, they would bring the whole church over there. But they were getting educated. Mm-hmm. Anytime there's a positive black program in America, they try to stop it. And Dr. Bracey said this in his talk on Saturday, that he wants to get back to that. Dr. Bracey, he's way up there now, close to 90.
Oh yeah. Let me put it like this. I had Dr. Bracey. I had Dr. Bracey as a professor when I was at UMass in the in the beginning of the 1980s. So that tells you how long he's been around. I was at UMass from 84 to 88, and Dr. Bracey was one of my professors.
And the point being, he said, "Hey, bud, we need to get back. You folks need to understand that UMass and Frankfurt were connected. Black folks up there, all those. But when Dr. Brahman and were giving out those PhDs and doctorals, they went after administration. They actually went after Dr. Bromley, brought him up on charges.
Mm-hmm.
Because at that time, UMass was giving out more doctoral degrees than any university in the country, probably the world.
The first UMass graduation I went to, I was 13 years old. My dad, my father, my Uncle Ben were receiving their master's degrees. Norma Baker was getting a bachelor's degree. And in that same graduation, Bill Cosby was getting his doctorate.
Yep. You know, I mean, that was embraced. He said, man, those folks came after us so hard. It was a shame. But and he closed with this. We have to understand this. And we have to fight for what we want. But anytime there's a positive program, he said, Fluker brought the church. Your uncle brought the church. Full of they were bringing folks in, getting educated. And these were black folks doing it. They were doing it. You know, they started, and I think the university thought it was going to be a fluke. They thought it was just something that, you know, black folks going to try to do something that ain't going to amount to nothing. And when they started, as you said, start churning that thing, getting folks educated, getting folks degrees, they said, oh, no, we can't have this. Oh, no, we can't have this. So that's what they did. So I just wanted to raise that. And then also give a shout out to the Coalition of Black Experienced Educators. They had a nice program last Saturday at the Cozy dealing with the kids and talking about the virus in the schools and the mask. They had some students there, some teachers, some professors. I want to thank Dr. Gloria Williams, the president, Dr. Bobby Renix, and Willette Johnson for the job well done. And Tika Jones for getting the kids. She brought some kids there. And Bishop, listen to those kids. And we do, because you got a lot of kids in your church. But we got to start getting back to listening to this youth. They have a lot to say. They really do have a lot to say. Absolutely. So, with that being said, I'm going to jump off. Right? As I said, Bishop, I really got to catch up with you this week.
All right.
And don't forget, October 27th, NAACP.
Absolutely.
Dinner, and you got the renowned speaker. And I think it's going to be limited in person. I try to explain that to people. You can't wait till the last minute.
Right. If they wait till the last minute, the in-person tickets will be sold.
Okay.
Yeah, they need to jump on it right now. Bishop Vashti McKenzie is our keynote speaker. October 27th. Y'all get you see it on the screen right there. Those of you who are listening over the radio, you can go to bit.ly/104 Freedom Fund. bit.ly/104 Freedom Fund. And you can purchase your ticket right there. You don't want to miss it. Dr. McKenzie is an iconic female preacher, the first ever bishop in the 200-year history of the AME Church, the oldest black denomination. She's the president of the National Council of Churches, the international chaplain of Delta Sigma Theta. Y'all don't want to miss this.
All right, Bishop. I'm gonna talk to you this week. Thank you, man.
All right, peace and blessings.
Yep.
413-337-1867. 6 minutes left in the program. If you haven't repped your city or town, rep your city, rep your town. Milwaukee in the house. I see my cousin Lori is in the building, repping Milwaukee. Listen, don't get caught up in this, right? And this is my message to black, conservative, black Christians, those who this family values, argument resonates with. Okay, I get it. I get your theological perspective. I get your positions on certain things, but don't align yourself with white supremacists. They don't share your values. Okay. Don't jump on the bandwagon because of your position on homosexuality or abortion or this or that, and then you want to line up with white supremacists who still hate black people. Stop it. Cut it out. Cut it out. And every time they decide they want to be outraged, you're gonna be outraged with them. How you gonna be outraged? Man, I see Dr. Ferris Hill watching. Now, I am so honored. Um, uh, Dr. Hill is a legend, and I play him every week. Y'all know I play Dr. Ferris Hill. Don't stop every week. I'm honored to see him on the broadcast. For real, for real. Um, I got to go out with some of his music now. But listen, seriously, don't get caught up in co-signing these white supremacists. What they mean by family values ain't what you mean. Okay? Because when they honor slaveholders, come on, no, no, no. They're honoring James Madison, who raped black women and enslaved his own children. No, that's not the same family values that you're talking about. Don't be co-signing that. I don't care what you think about Lizzo. And I know you sanctified folk. Got a problem with her up there, showing her booty, and in scantily clothed outfits and stuff. I know you got a problem with that. Okay, all right, don't watch it. That's all. You ain't got to watch Lizzo. So whatever your problem with Lizzo is, don't jump on the bandwagon when white supremacists start trashing a black woman, regardless of what you feel about the black woman. No, don't do that. Don't do that. Yes, Dr. Hill, we definitely need to connect. I'm going to reach out to you. Don't do that, family. Don't do that. That's right, Kathy. Just don't look at her booty. If that's your problem, look to the hill from which cometh your help. But definitely don't line up with white supremacists who are trashing her so that they can defend a slave-owning rapist like James Madison. I don't have a lot of time left in the program, but like I said, I could go on and on with the list of these presidents and founding fathers who own black people: James Madison, James Monroe, Andrew Jackson, Martin Van Buren, William Henry Harrison, John Tyler, James Polk, Zachary Taylor, Andrew Johnson, Ulysses S. Grant, uh, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson. Come on, man. You gonna jump on the bandwagon because some conservative white supremacists are mad that a black woman played a slave owner's flute? Cut it out, family. Cut it out. Just cut it out. All right, I gotta go. Listen, if you're looking for a place to worship, check us out at the Spring of Hope Church of God in Christ, 35 Alden Street, Springfield, Massachusetts, every Sunday morning at 11 o'clock a.m. Prayer, praise, and preaching. We're building better tomorrows by changing lives today. Definitely check us out. And once again, let me throw that graphic back up for those of you who are on social media. The 104th Greater Springfield NAACP. Yeah, we've been around 104 years. Freedom Fund Banquet is Thursday, October 27th. 6 p.m. is the social hour, 7 o'clock. is the banquet. This is Power is the NAACP's theme all year long. Bishop Vashti McKenzie is the keynote speaker at the Sheraton Springfield. In-person tickets and also virtual tickets. bit.ly/104 Freedom Fund to get your tickets. You definitely want to be a part of what's happening on that day. Let me throw in some Dr. Ferris Hill once again. So honored to have him watching today. This one's called Daddy Talk. It's going to take us out of here. Until the next time I talk to you and you talk to me, always remember God loves you, and so do I.
Talk to me, Daddy. Talk to me, Daddy. Talk to me, Daddy. Talk to me, Daddy. A positive attitude says everything about you. Attitude is a little thing that makes a big difference. Every day you get up, you've been given a gift. That's why we call it the present. And it's up to you of how you adapt it. Yesterday is history. Tomorrow's a mystery. Today is a gift. So don't let the pain of your past bleed into your present and poison your future. Stop replaying the movie. Why did this happen to me? When it's done with you, be done with it. If it seems like you keep running into pigeons, it's an indication that you're flying too low. So set your sights a little higher. Remember, eagles fly by themselves. If you can see the invisible, you can do the impossible. Allow your challenges to be a stepping stone to propel you into new possibilities. So be discontent with your past accomplishment. You're only as great as your last success. So maintain your hunger and your passion. Remember this, within every seed there is a tree. In every tree there is a forest. Doing what you were born into is simply the environment to prepare you for your ultimate purpose. It was not a setback, it was a setup. Your purpose and potential is bigger than your past pain or problem. Dedicate to you. Listen to your heart, don't let your mind fool you. Another talk, dedicate to you.